Hello guys, let's see about Jest. So what is Jest and what are the features of Jest? So to get started, what is Jest? Jest is nothing but the testing framework which was developed by Facebook and it is used to test React applications. So although it is used for testing other JavaScript libraries and frameworks, most preferably it is used for testing React applications. So let's create a small project and we'll use Jest to test uh, that particular application and write some test cases. So just we can create a small project now. So I've already installed create React app in my machine globally. So let's use this command npx create React app to create a new project. I'll use the project name as just demo, and on clicking enter, it creates a template and creates some list of files and install all the dependencies that is needed for the project. It will take quite some time. So I'll pause this video and after the project gets created, I'll connect with you guys. Yes, now the project has been created. Now let's open an IDE. So I'm going to use Visual Studio Code and open the project, but you may use whatever the IDE you prefer. So I'm preferring Visual Studio Code for React applications. So let's open the project which was created now. So now we are in a root directory of the project. Let's open a new terminal and just check whether the application is running fine. So we'll use the command npm start. So it creates a local server and it opens the application in a browser. So let's see the application is working. Yeah, the application is working now. So now we can check whether the tests work. So let's use the command npm test. See, here you can see the list of commands here. So like we have uh, a f q p t etc, so that we can execute the following process. So now we can enter a so to run all the tests in our application. So currently we have app.test.js which has only one test case, and that is passing now. So in order to see that, we can go into the source directory and you can see the app.test.js. So this is the test file. So here we have one test case which is running and it is passing now. But how just identifies this test files and run them? So what normally just does is just scans this resource source directory fully, and if the file with the extension test.js is found, it runs the test file. So this is how that just is running these test cases. So now the test cases are passing and it has one default test case and it is running fine. Now let's create a small counter application. So and we can write test cases for that counter application. And the default behavior is that when we click increment, it increments the counter, and when we click decrement, it decrements the counter. So we can create that application and we can write few test cases by using just an enzyme. Now I cleaned up this project by removing all the commands and removing all the test cases, default test cases. Now to get started, before that, we can install Bootstrap so that the application looks fine, and we can use default Bootstrap classes to design the template. So for installing Bootstrap, we can use the command npm install data save Bootstrap. So this installs the Bootstrap npm module. So in order to use that in our project, let's go to index.js and let's import that to the application. So it will be inside the node modules, the node modules, bootstrap test slash css slash bootstrap. So we have added the bootstrap. Let's add the extension.css. And now we can just test whether the application is working with bootstrap or not. So let's create a header. So let's add a class container. Yeah, the bootstrap classes are working now. So now let's create a small counter application. Let's create a h4 tag and put it as counter. Create a dev. Let's create a style. Let's add a class here. Add a CSS for this. Let's add a width 20 and let's add a height. Let's add a background color here. And yeah, and let's add a color white font size property to that. Put it as 20 pixel. So it looks somewhat bigger and we can do still bigger font. Let's put it as 35 pixels. Yeah, it's looking somewhat good. Let's add a border radius. Now add text align to that. Let's see. Yeah. Now it looks somewhat good, but the bottom area is somewhat smaller. So let's add a height 60 pixels. Let's see how it looks. Somewhat, yeah, it looks better. Now let's go ahead and create two buttons now. One is decrement, the other one can be increment. Let's add a bootstrap class now. Let's say button danger. Add the same class to increment, but with button success. Yeah, we have added the two buttons now, but We need some spacing between so let's add a class and put it as button style or button area. Let's add that index of CSS. Let's add a margin top 10 pixel. Yeah, now it looks better. Let's add a button style class. So let's add margin left of 15 pixel. And this button style class. Yeah, now the application looks better, and we have created a template for the small application, but we don't have the functionality now. Let's add the functionality to get started. Now let's add the functionality to this application. So now it currently has a static counter 0. Now let's make it as a state and let's make it as a dynamic now. So let's now create a state for this. Let's use destructuring for it. Let's add it as count. Oops. Set count property. Set the count, and we're going to use state for this. A React hook, which is used to uh, make use of state in the functional components. So now we have created a state by using a useState property, but we just needed to import it before using it. So let's import. First, let's import React and import as React.useState. So now we have a property count or a state which can be used in this application. Let's make it as dynamic now. So now the count has a state which can be used in this application, but there is no default count has been set. So we're going to set it as 0 as default now. Now let's see whether the application is showing 0. Yeah, now the count has been dynamic now. So now let's make this button work now. So let's create an on-click property. And now we can use set count now to set the state. We're going to increment the count. So we're going to increment the count by 1. So now let's see whether it increments. Yeah, now it's incrementing. Now we can do the same for a decrement. So now let's add the property on click for decrement. But now what we want to do is we want to decrement the count by 1. Now let's see whether it works. Yeah, it decrements now. So now we have created a small application. Um, so now we can use this application and we can test the application by using Jest and Enzyme.